What's up, Drop Pod listeners? You can listen to the Drop Podcast every Wednesday on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Pods. You can also find all of our content on YouTube at the Drop Golf Podcast and on all of our socials. That's Instagram and Twitter at the Drop_pod. No matter how you consume us, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff, follow and listen along.
This episode is presented by the Law Office of Mound and Tranger. Tom Mound and Randy Tranger are board-certified trial attorneys who share more than 40 years of legal experience. They specialize in personal injury matters, workers' compensation cases, and criminal and municipal defense. As certified trial attorneys, they have recovered millions of dollars on behalf of people injured in accidents and employees injured at work. They have offices conveniently located in Freehold and Point Pleasant. For skilled and personalized legal representation, call Mound and Tranger at 732-780-0230 or check out their website at tmoundlaw.com. Not only are they good people, they're good golfers too. You keep the hats, I'm not a hat.
I know you're not.
I need to showcase this beautiful face.
So, I thought...
This is the Drop Podcast where we talk golfing in the Garden State. I'm Mike Poro, and this is Ryan Coulott.
Hello. What is up, everyone? How we doing? Mike, today is episode number 20. Can you believe that shit?
Time flies when you're having fun, pal.
It sure does. It's been crazy. What a ride. I don't know if I don't think even the end result is where we are right now. If you would have asked me 20 episodes ago. I mean, the support, everything that we have, our Instagram following, the stuff that we've been putting out, the places we've been invited to, the guests we've had on, the outpouring of love and support that we've gotten. It's really been pretty special, and we're truly fortunate for it. So thank you everyone out there for all that. We're going to keep going. This is nowhere near the end, but yeah, this has been a good ride so far.
Yeah, I mean, episode 20, I can't believe this is 20 consecutive Wednesdays that we will have put one out, staying consistent, staying on target. And I do want to give a shout out to Randy Tranger and Tom Mound, because these are two lawyers that jumped in from the very beginning. They kind of saw what we were about. They believed in what we were doing and have backed us basically from day one. And I know we've had some other sponsors jump in and jump out and jump in, and we truly appreciate that as well. But these guys have stuck in from the very beginning, have backed us, have supported us, and are all in. And I just want to make sure that we kind of toss that out there as well, because without their support, things may be a little different. So I just want to personally say thank you to them for what they've done for us.
Absolutely, yeah. Tom and Randy, thank you for supporting us again from, as Mike said, from day one. We got a big episode this week. We have David Ford on as our guest this week. He's the number 6 ranked Wagger player in the world. That's World Amateur Golf Rankings. It was very cool, David, to jump on. I mean, we don't really have a history with him. He's from Georgia, goes to UNC. No real connection, but just kind of got connected with him, and very cool. We're certainly very thankful for David to take some time out of his day to jump on an interview with us. So that was really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the guys, again, that we were fortunate to connect through Instagram. Couple DMs back and forth. He had just come off winning the Jones Cup Invitational. For a lot of our listeners and followers that know the college scene really well. We've been fortunate to have guys on like Jack Wall and Chris Gotterup that play in these big time collegiate events. And David had just come off winning the Jones Cup, and we tossed it out there and say, hey, listen, if you have a second, come on. I know it's kind of, again, outside our boundary lines, but we tossed it out there and it worked. And anytime you can get a guy that's number 6 ranked in the Wagger, plays on a top 5 collegiate team at the University of North Carolina, like you step outside your boundaries. And talking to David, hearing his story, how he came off multiple major injuries and still plays at a super high level. Again, I know we say it often and we say it frequent, but another must listen to with David.
It certainly is. And for those that don't know, you got to listen. He's playing extremely high level golf with 2 torn labrums. I mean, it's incredible what he's doing. So again, a must listen as all of them are. It was a great chatting with him. So it was a big week outside of the world of golf this week. Tiger, obviously, back at Riviera is huge. The Netflix documentary, Full Swing, dropped this past week as well. We're going to break that down. We'll give you a heads up. We won't do any spoilers, but we are going to break down a couple episodes this week, couple next week. But if we're going to focus on New Jersey golf, Jack Wall was the headliner this week. We had Jack on the podcast back on episode 12, which was in December. Both Mike and I have known Jack for a few years. It was a awesome interview, and an interview is a loose word. I feel like it was more of a chat. Jack was just in his dorm room, just chatting it up with us. So let's kind of update you on how things have been going with Jack. The college golf season has a short fall, but most of it's played in the spring. So Jack played in 3 tournaments in the fall before we got to him, and he has 7 tournaments coming in this spring. One of them's already happened. The number 3 ranked Red Raiders took on UNC, and ironically, David Ford, who's today's guest, Texas Tech won. So that was a nice tournament for them in the ACC Big 12 Challenge. That was Friday, February 10th. Then on Monday, February 13th, Jack played in a one-day showcase. It's called the Genesis Collegiate Showcase, which is held at Riviera. And the winner of that tournament, or that showcase, among other things, gets entry into Tiger's Genesis Invitational. Jack won the fucking tournament. Jack goes out in 2 playoff holes. He birdies the first. He eagles the second. Jack won the tournament and got entry into the Genesis Invitational, right? Tiger's tournament. So now, Monday, Jack's playing in a tournament, wins the thing. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, he's back and forth going with, he meets Tiger. He met Tiger Woods, right? Mike, do you realize what that means? We've met Tiger Woods now. That's what that means. So we hot on social, and the things were going back and forth with, Jack's meeting Tiger. There was a dap up and a hug on the balcony. He's got press conferences, right, all over the place. Jack's has an extremely busy couple days. On top of, oh shit, now I'm in a professional golf tournament that I need to get prepared for. I mean, I can't imagine what Jack was going through. All the emotions, I don't know if there's many lows, but the highs and lows, the peaks and valleys of that day and that couple days really have to be tremendous. So I know we were trying to get Jack on, weren't able to make it happen in time for this episode, but we're certainly going to have him on again and hear out his story, because that's something we got to hear firsthand. Incredible couple days. I mean, think a week, right? You beat the number 4 team in the country. That's not small. And then you win a showcase. Oh, happens that showcase sends you to a pro tournament. That's great. That pro tournament's hosted by Tiger. I mean, you can't get any better. I mean, what 7 days for Jack Wall? Cannot wait to hear what he's got to say.
I mean, you've tell me a better 7-day stretch than that, and I'll take that 7-day stretch over whatever you're trying to compare to me. Because, I mean, I know you talked about prior champions of this showcase. I know it's only been in existence for 9 years. I get it, okay? But you're talking the likes of Will Zalatoris, Scotty Scheffler. Oh, by the way, the number 1 ranked player in the world won this tournament. And then Jack Wall goes out there and just casually drops an eagle, 25-footer for eagle on the second playoff hole, and now he's in. Listen, my phone was going off on Monday when this was going down. I could not believe it. I was in shock. I said to someone, watch out. I told someone ahead of time, Jack Wall's going to win it. And who knows? Bam! Jack Wall gets it done. And listen, I had bets in there that he was going to finish in the top 40, top 20. Let's go get it done. And no offense, I know he shot 74 and 72 and missed the cut. But he's still, if you look at it, he still beat Billy Horschel. He still beat Sam Burns. He still beat Francisco Molinari. He still beat Scott Stallings. We could go on and on and on about the guys that this kid beat that are professional golfers.
Right, he beat dudes.
He's beating studs that are PGA Tour winners, top 50 players in the world. He goes out there and just, and listen, I know we tried hard to get him on for this week's episode, and schedule wise, Jack has a tournament Monday through Wednesday this week, so we weren't able to get him on. But I promise we're doing our best to get him and his brother Jerry, who caddied for him, on the podcast to talk about and relive that experience. Because man, I'm sure we could have an hour-long episode just picking their brains about how it went on Monday, winning the thing, to how it finished out the week. Like, I just can't wait. I can't.
And how about like one of the underrated cool things? Jerry's just wearing a Leggett's hat. Local bar in Manasquan. That's where they're from. That kind of stuff is just so cool that just like, oh, we know that. It's just like, yeah, just awesome. So
yeah, listen, it couldn't happen to a better kid. He's a grinder. He's a golfer. And again, I think if we date back to another earlier episode, even when we had Chris Dimmick on, the head professional at Manasquan River, he flat out said, like, you want to talk about the next big thing in New Jersey, like, watch out for Jack Wall. And it just so happened that Jack was the following episode. Jack goes out and does what he does this week. And I said to Chris, I said, I can't lie, you called this way back in November. He's like, I told you.
He really did. That was right after coming off of when we played Troy. I had said something to the effect of like listening to Troy hit the ball sounds different. Like, it's incredible when you hit it in a sweet spot every single time. And again, Troy's not a big guy, and he still is able to pound it out there. It's just like, it sounds different. That's not the point I'm trying to get at. But I'm saying that, and Chris is like, wait until you play golf with Jack. Like, it's going to be next level. Jack is a stud.
Yeah, and again, to your point, it's no disrespect to others.
No.
But like, there's levels and everything. There's levels. It's just like there's handicaps and everything. And it's no disrespect to the 15 handicapper, but like the 1 is better than the 15. And everything sounds and looks a lot different. It's the same thing with Jack Wall. Like, you see him and you're like, dude, okay, this is really golfing. It's the same thing with Chris Goddard. That, like, those guys are the future of golfing in the Garden State. Like, you talk about people on the national scene that are homegrown New Jersey kids through and through. Like, Chris and Jack are our tickets moving forward in terms of watching guys on Sunday afternoon coming down the stretch. Like, it's going to be those two guys for the next 20 years.
No doubt. So, Mike, I don't know where we want to go from here. I mean, we got some things we got to talk about.
Listen, let's dive into last week's episode a little bit, because the list of 21 and 21 had done unbelievable on Instagram this week in terms of the responses that I had been getting and the DMs that people were sending me, and even just the comments alone on the post itself. It sounded like the bulk of what we had put out. And really I can't really take much credit for it. I just kind of piggybacked off what you had put out there. But what you had put out was spot on. I don't know if we got many fight back or arguments in terms of like, no, you got to go play this place over that one. It sounded like from the audience and the followers on Instagram that we nailed it. We did. Neshannock Valley was a huge hit. Just like we knew. A lot of people have played there, speak beyond highly of that place. Ballyowen was another one that people spoke very, very highly about. Gosh, I can't even think. I mean, just going through the list of the DMs that even I got. Hunterdon County, I was getting DMs about them, and they agreed with us that Heron Glen was number 1 and that Highbridge Hills was right behind them. So again, like, it's been incredible, and just the people wanting to get out and play. Like, listen, we're always open to trying to make a schedule happen and make a date happen for us to get out there and play. So, the more invites, the better. Obviously, we're not going to be able to be in every spot at every date, but if we find it to where we can get out there and play and meet and introduce ourselves to people in person, by all means, we're all about that.
So you put the disclaimer. That's the first one. When we go play Atlantic County, Blue Heron Pines is the first course that we're going to go play. And then when we play Blue Heron, Ballamore will step up. Like, it just shifts over. So while that list has a second, third, and fourth, That's the order of which we want to go play those courses, I guess, is more what we're getting at. Think of it as like one column. That first course that's there, that's the first column. And then the second column, that moves over once the first column gets vacant. So that's kind of what we're going for there.
Yeah, and I can honestly say, I don't know if the disclaimer helped, but I didn't get many people saying, like, oh, by the way, it's more than, I think maybe putting that disclaimer out there alleviated some of the wise guy comments, because I really didn't get many of them at all. Like, some guys busted chops, but nothing to a serious extent. I will also say this, because I do know that some people in Monmouth and Ocean County reached out to me specifically and said, like, well, what about this course, and why do you not have them over them? So on and so forth. I do want to phrase it, because if you missed it when we said it, the reason why some courses aren't listed specifically in Monmouth and Ocean County is because we've played them, and we've played them way many times, like so many times that it's like we know them. So we're not saying those two counties, like, oh, Sun Eagles is the best Monmouth County track and LBI National is the best Ocean County track. That's not what we're saying. We just are saying that in Ocean County specifically, like, we've played Eagle Ridge many, many times. It's a phenomenal golf course, but we haven't really, Ryan hasn't really gotten to LBI National, so that's where we want to go.
Never been.
Right. So when it comes to Monmouth County, like, Ryan's probably played every track, and I, to some extent, have played the majority of them, and like, we want to get to Sun Eagles from all the things that we've heard. Probably you could have an argument saying Charleston, North or South is the best, or Homony's the best. But for us, this reason why Sun Eagles is number one is because we want to get there and see the renovations that they've made.
To that point, we're not arguing that Hominy Hill is worse than Sun Eagles. I can tell you right now, Hominy Hill's a nicer course. It's the crown jewel of Monmouth County golf courses, and maybe you could argue it's right there with Ballyowen as best public courses in the state. These aren't rankings of these courses. They're rankings of courses and how we want to play them. All right, so moving on to our next topic for the day is obviously big in the golf world, but finally Netflix dropped the Full Swing documentary about the PGA Tour last season. I mean, everyone's kind of said, if you're involved in golf at all, you've heard it. What a year for Netflix to get involved in the PGA Tour. So first, let me backtrack. If you haven't heard of it, that documentary series, Formula One, that was out a couple years ago? I actually never watched it, only heard good things about it. But it's like a behind the scenes of the Formula One guys in Europe. And huge success. Everybody loved it. They did a great job with it. Those same Formula One guys came in, they followed the PGA Tour, they broke it down into these 8 episodes. Each episode's 45 minutes to an hour. And again, just a hell of a year. A lot going on in golf last year between the different winners, the personalities, the live golf stuff that happened. I mean, really, you couldn't write a better script for a documentary for last year. So, Mike, I took some notes, right? I didn't write down the actual title of the episode. I know the first one is called Frenemies. It's about JT and Jordan, and I don't have like the official names for it, but I just wrote a couple notes, and I have some thoughts on them. I feel like let's just ping pong it back and forth and chat about it real quick. I thought the JT Jordan stuff, which by the way, I absolutely love those guys. I love their whole thing. Everything about them I think is just terrific. Them winning and being there for each other, I just think is awesome stuff.
Yeah, I guess I did never fully grasp the bond the two of them have. I always heard that they were tight, they were buddies, they grew up playing each other. But I think episode 1 really dove deep into their friendship. And I was blown away with how competitive they are with each other, but then also how much they support each other. And I thought that was a great intro to what the season of Full Swing ended up becoming. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. And so that's the other thing I think that the documentary did a great job of. I think they did a great job of, for us golf nerds that are super into golf and know all these things, I think it was interesting to us because it was all the behind the scenes stuff. It was all the caddy talk. It was all that sort of thing. But then also, for those that don't know anything, just a few minutes into the first episode, Dan Rappaport mentions the word birdie, and they put on a screen that a birdie is 1 under par. So, like, if you know nothing about golf, you could have watched that and been interested in it. I think they did a great job with that. So I took away from episode 1 that it was wholesome between those two. It was such a good relationship, and I think, like, we all have our golfing buddies, but, like, to have your golfing buddy and you be 2 of the best players in the world has got to be just so much fun, and they make it look like they're having fun. And then it goes into episode 2. What I took away, it kind of focused on Brooks. Brooks Koepka is unlikable, in my opinion. I didn't have a huge problem with him prior to it, but it's tough to root for him now from what I took away from that. So I don't know if you have anything. I haven't really missed Brooks since he went to Live. It really hasn't bothered me at all. So I don't know if you have any feelings, but I'm good.
So you know what is funny is I think, like a lot of things in life, drama adds more eyes. And Brooks is that type of person. And I think when he was winning all those majors, there was not only good golf, but followed by the drama of who Brooks Koepka is. Because anytime he'd play in a regular PGA Tour event, he was non-existent. But the majors would come around, and Brooks would be dominating.
Right, dialed in.
It's not that I dislike him, but he can be a very hard person to like. I think the way he talks sometimes, his approach to certain things, just makes him like kind of like an out there dude. He does think sometimes he's above everybody else. But I mean, listen, I recently read just this week alone that he's kind of having second thoughts going to Live. And I think there's some part of it with Brooks is where I think a guy like Brooks needs to be constantly motivated. I think he constantly needs to be pushed, and no offense to Live and what they do, but that's more just like collect your money, have some fun, listen to some music while you play, and that's it. Where on the PGA Tour, it's like you got all these elevated events, you got the best of the best, you got the cream of the crop, you got the majors, and I get it, the Live guys can play in the majors, but you also got all these other tournaments that everybody wants to win. And, you know, I think that's something a guy like Brooks Koepka, he's tough. And I think a guy like him could truly miss the PGA Tour.
Yeah, and I don't want to give those guys credit because I don't like how they sued the PGA Tour to play in the event. Like you left. That's like you're in the NBA, you decide you don't want to play in the NBA anymore, and you go play in Europe. You don't get to then come back for the NBA championship. You're out of the league, you know. So part of me is like, okay, I don't like where the money's from or anything like that, but okay, you decided that that's what's best for you and your family. Fine. Don't tell me it was for some, like, you know, fix the game of golf. Like, golf needed to make the changes that it did make this year with the elevated events, with the you're getting $5,000 for just showing up to the tournament. Like those things are great, and I'm glad they did that. But don't tell me that you had to leave in order to make that happen at the PGA Tour level.
No, and I said, and that's kind of what I'm getting at with like a guy like Brooks. He didn't need to leave. He didn't. He had everything right there. He was a 4-time major winner. Like, he's playing legit golf. Like, he may be struggling, but no offense, everybody on tour has gone through that, which I think transitions in perfectly, like you have here, into episode 3 with like Ian Poulter. Like, you know why Poulter left. The dude is sniffing 50. He's not making as many cuts. He's not making, clearly that means you're not making any money. You can watch the episodes. It says you need to make the cut to make some money. So a guy like him, the thing that Ian Poulter throws away is the Ryder Cup. And we all know that when you think about the Ryder Cup and possible captaincies down the road, like Ian Poulter would have been a lock to be a European. God,
yes.
Right, no doubt. So what is a guy like Ian Poulter throwing away? He's throwing away the Ryder Cup, right? But if he's still looking to provide for his family, it makes sense for Ian Poulter to go. He's not competing with John Rahm and Max Homa and Rory. He's not.
Not even a little.
So if he wants to take his X guaranteed millions of dollars, okay, I get it. Brooks didn't need to do that.
And I wish that people had just said that. Like, just come out and say it. Like, I don't think Ian Poulter did necessarily a great job of that at the time. Now the documentary comes out and it's clear why. But some of these guys, I feel like Pat Perez is the only one that really came out and was like, I'm doing it for the money. I don't make as many cuts anymore. I need it. Whereas like some of these other guys, just like, again, Brooks didn't have to do it. You know, they say it's better for me and my family. Just say you wanted the money, because that's what it is. It's not like it's better for you and your family because you wanted the money, because you were greedy and you saw the dollar signs.
And that's exactly what DJ said. DJ flat out comes out and says, because he's another guy who didn't. He goes, if anybody said that you could work less but make more,
who wouldn't sign up for that?
Someone tell me why you wouldn't take that. And he just says it.
I don't necessarily know if it was all handled this great at the time, but then this coming out makes it, you know, it is very clear. So I took away this from episode 2. I don't really like Brooks, but I'll tell you, episode 3, I hate Ian Poulter because he's just a killer on the Ryder Cup. How he's been doing it for all these years, he's never lost a singles match. I like him a lot more now. I really do. He is a likable. I liked all the stuff with him and his wife, his kids. It was just like, you know, when you can see someone like behind the scenes like that, you just get to see what kind of person they are, which is a lot different than the quote unquote villain that I had him in my own mind from all the Ryder Cup stuff. And not that I thought he's a villain, but like, you know, how he beats us and then wears all the flamboyant like pants that look like wallpaper in a bathroom, I think is a quote they use. Like that kind of stuff, like it always rubbed me the wrong way. I'll tell you, I don't know if I like someone, have flipped that much on somebody. Really won me over with like the kind of person he is behind the scenes, which again, this is what that captures. So I think he's much more likable now. Again, on the flip side, I think Brooks is much more unlikable now.
Yeah, Ian Poulter's always been he's been like an entertainer out there his whole career, and I think this episode for people that are non-golfers truly got to see his personality and why so many people can be drawn to guys like Ian Poulter.
Yeah. I do want to end at episode 4. I don't really want to go much further for that because I want to take episode 4. Joel Damon. I mean, fuck. Joel, if you're listening, oh my God, Joel, can we have a beer? I
can see you two being best
friends. What a dude. Joel,
I can see you two
Joel
being
Damon.
best friends.
This is a shout out. Please, somebody listening, forward this to Joel Damon. Get it in his ears. Joel, this is Ryan from the Drop Podcast. I live in New Jersey. Please, let's have a beer. What a dude. I mean, he seems like he's awesome. And what a story about him, his mom, both of them having cancer. It was just, wow. Like you know, going through that kind of stuff is life-changing as see. His wife talks about how he's living for the moment, and what a good dude. You don't hear a lot of negative about. He's not high ranking on the money list or anything like that. But what a story, and what just a human being. He seems like an awesome guy.
How good are the interactions with him and his caddy? How good is like how their relationship started with the caddy writing him a letter?
The email. Saying that, like, he's crying during the email, dude. That was.
He's like, just like, you could be one of the best players in the world. I'd love to come out and caddy for you. And Joel being like, well, I guess this is my caddy. And then they're out there on tour. Like, can you imagine a caddy saying to you, like, you told me on Tuesday we'd win $1 million this week.
Right.
Like, no pressure, buddy. No pressure.
Right. Right. And then how he qualified for the U.S. Open. Like, that's how low he is as being a PGA Tour pro, that he's got to go to local U.S. Open qualifiers. So
you gotta love how he had the 2 drinks too in between the nines. Like, again, he's like, I don't know if this is legal.
They played 36.
Yeah, in between his rounds, he throws back a couple drinks and I don't know if this is legal or illegal, but I'm doing it.
But I'll tell you how many of us this might not go for you, Mike, because you're a high level, high competition golfer. But I'll tell you, there's a sweet spot for us normal golfers that we go out and we suck the first couple holes because it takes a little while to get the swing juice involved, and then we have, we get into that range of like, hey, we're hitting it good because we've had a couple drinks and we're looser, and then we keep drinking. And then the game goes back to shit because we've had too many drinks and we're just like flailing all over. But there is that sweet spot, and if you can live in that lane, you just swinging free. It's not a bad place to live. And he obviously got there with those two drinks.
And I think I want to say his caddy's name is Gino. I think that's his caddy's name. And Gino. I think even Gino says it multiple times that like Joel has the ability and the skill to be a top 20 ranked player in the world. He just questions whether Joel wants to be a top 20 ranked player in the world. And I think that's, a fair criticism to some extent. Like, there's things that Rory McIlroy's doing and Scottie Scheffler's doing and Jon Rahm is doing and Max Homa is doing that's probably different than what Joel Damon's doing, which is why that those guys are, top 5, top 10, number ones. And Joel's sitting around 70. Like that's the sacrifice to be great that they're willing to do that Joel isn't. And there's not a knock on that on Joel because what he does works for him. But clearly even Gino makes mention of it multiple times that like he's got the ability to do it. And I mean, no offense, he showed at the U.S. Open this past year.
Yeah.
He was in contention the whole time.
And I think to your point, Mike, he doesn't have that like next level dog in him. He's said like his wife says that cancer, he has testicular cancer. So he's got this attitude about life that he's going to live in the moment and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I'm not saying he's not practicing, but I bet you that Rory is between working out, hitting balls, putting. I think Rory probably works out for 2 hours a day. Probably hits balls for 2 or 3 hours a day. Probably does stuff around the green for 2 or 3 hours a day. 2, 4, 6, let's call it 7 hours total of him doing golf-related stuff. I don't know if Joel Damon, again, I'm not saying he's not working, but I don't know if he's got that like finishing dog in him with his laid-back, live-in-the-moment kind of attitude. Which, again, to his point, doesn't mean he doesn't have the skill. It's just it comes down to the mentals.
Yeah. And but on the positive, I could see you and Joel being fucking boys. I could.
Totally could. I would love to hang out with Joel Damon. That would be amazing.
Yeah. I would too. I would like to hang out with him too. But I could see if you're asking me like who he can connect with better is definitely you. Definitely you.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I would
for
be,
sure.
You guys would be in the cart together and I'd be grinding over the 5-footer while you guys are looking at me, laughing at me.
We gotta find a partner for you. So it's me and Joel versus you and another guy, and that's what
I'll take Jack Wall.
So that's kind of our recap. That's the first 4 episodes. We're gonna do 5 through 8 next week. So if you're coming back, hopefully we didn't spoil anything for anybody out there. We did give you a little disclaimer to be fair to us. But next week we'll talk about the next couple in case anyone didn't get to watch this week. So 5 through 8 next week of full swing, and man, I'm excited.
Can I ask one question?
I'll allow it.
Okay. Through the first 4 episodes, give me one critique.
If you one critique.
Because I know what stands out for me.
Okay.
And I'd be curious to see if I mean, you may have none. You may just like everything you saw was perfect.
I did. I thought at times it was a little bit slower than I would have liked it. I don't know if that's your... And again, like you said, that's not really critique for me because I did love it. This is not as good as The Last Dance, which might be the best thing I've ever seen. I absolutely loved that, but it's really good.
Yeah, I think, and I guess the golf thing, I'd like to have seen more golf too. I guess my only question with the golf aspect of it is, do the television rights withhold some of that in terms of like what the Netflix cameras were able to capture and what they weren't?
So what's your critique of it?
My only critique was I wish it went in order. Like, I wish it went from like, I didn't like how it went from like the PGA, then it went backwards to the Waste Management, and then it went to the Masters. I would love to have seen it go from like the very beginning. Like, I don't care if that means we're starting at the Waste Management first.
Okay.
And then we got to the Masters in April, and then we got to the PGA. I would have rather have just seen it.
You would have rather the chronology be correct and not the storylines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Now,
and tell the stories within each of them.
Have you finished it?
Yes.
Okay, see, I didn't finish it, so I don't know how it comes out. At this point, 4 episodes in, it's a little confusing. I get that. But I do like the storyline.
The first 4, they're not in order. They're just not in order because they start with the PGA.
Right.
And then Joel's episode is a lot about the Waste Management.
Correct. And
You're going backwards right there with those 4.
Right, exactly. And I don't mind it. I wish there was almost a disclaimer so that you didn't think they were going to go in order by the season. But maybe by the end, I would say that, yes, I'd want to see it in order. At this point, I don't mind the storylines of like JT Jordan, Brooks, Ian Poulter, Joel Damon. I know episode 5 is DJ and Matt Fitz and more live stuff we're going to get into. But halfway through, I don't mind the storyline-ness of it.
Agreed.
All right, so that's going to be it for this episode today, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to send it right now to David Ford, who is absolute stud golfer, number 6 in the Wagger rankings, plays for UNC on their golf team. Their golf team's ranked number 4 in the country. So here's our interview with David. Enjoy.
All right. Well, today our guest is none other than David Ford, and I know he may not be a household name when it comes to golfing in the Garden State, but again, when you step outside the boundaries and you start, projecting things ahead, he's going to be on your radar sooner rather than later. Let me give you a little background about David. He's the winner of the 2022 Southern Amateur Tournament, where he tied the tournament record going 20 under par. Currently, he's ranked 6th in the Wagger rankings, which again, for us that don't know that, is the World Amateur Golf Rankings. He's a 2-time USGA amateur participant. He has a career low round. Take this, Rye, 62 at Seminole. I'm not talking 9 holes, Rye. I'm talking 18. Oh. And I think what he's done recently, where he's won, the Jones Cup Invitational in dramatic fashion, which is going to be a huge topic of conversation for me. And more or less, that's like his 2nd amateur golf major championship in less than 6 months. David, I appreciate you taking a few minutes here to come on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah,
listen,
David.
Yeah, listen.
I want to start. I want to start this way. Do you know what the course record is in Seminole?
I think it's 60.
Listen,
that's bonkers.
David, it's funny. Before I even get into things, when I was, looking at things on the Golf Channel in early January, just like scrolling through things, and I started seeing the Jones Cup stuff come up, and I would think I think I'm a little more familiar with the Wagger rankings than Ryan is, and obviously when I read these things, I start diving deeper into it, and then when I saw that final round of yours, I said, oh my God, like, this dude can play golf, and it's not just, and I get it. People are going to say, well, Mike, he's outside the Garden State. Why are you stepping outside? But I think when you get opportunities like this to speak to people like yourself, who, as someone like me, when you project ahead, like, you may not be on everybody's radar right now in terms of like national things, but if they follow anything when it comes to collegiate golf or the Wagger rankings itself, like, you are on their radar. So listen, I could probably pick your brain about a million things, because I felt like I was writing a novel when I was doing some research on you. But for our audience that doesn't have any idea of maybe who David Ford actually is, why don't you give us a little bit about, yourself and your journey?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to know where to start, but I grew up with a twin brother and a triplet sister. So I'm actually a triplet, which a lot of people don't know. but my brother and I are always really competitive ever since we were little, and my parents kind of maintained an environment that was competitive. They didn't limit our competitive nature, so they put us in a lot of team sports when we were younger, like ages 8 to like 13 or 14. We were playing a lot of roller hockey, basketball, baseball, soccer, flag football, pretty much anything. And basically, we kind of grew our competitive nature and our competitiveness individually through those team sports. And it turned out to help me a lot later down the road, like when I need a putt to fall, or when I really need to dig deep and be competitive and find something deeper than myself to try to want to win. I feel like growing up with my brother is something that not everybody has, and something that I can lean on in pressure situations a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, dad, from my research, dad is a pretty good golfer too. Played at Georgia State, so clearly it's something that runs in the family.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He doesn't play much anymore. He's been working a lot the last 4 or 5 years, really, and but he shot 64 when he was 66 on 18 holes, so it's pretty ridiculous. He holed out on the last to shoot 8 under 64, and I think it was the highlight of his career, his golfing career after the age of 50. So he won the senior club championship 3 times and the club championship 3 times at my home course, which is really cool for him too. But he was a good player. I was always ask him like, hey, how good am I compared to you when you were my age? And he was always like, you're way better than I ever was. I was like, there's no way, dude. You've done all these. So it's cool to have another good golfer in the family, and my dad.
Yeah, I saw that and I kind of was like, man, so it's clearly something that, which having a dad that plays golf clearly helps things in so many aspects, because now you have the resources and the means just to get to the course itself. So, obviously that's a huge thing. And, obviously I did do some reading and I did read that, are you still playing golf with 2 partially torn labrums, or is that something that's been fixed, or you've just learned to deal with it?
Yeah, so I am still. It's almost the 2 year anniversary of like when the injury started. So it'll be on February 26th, 2021 is when it happened. So we're almost to 2 years, and it's really a blessing, like just to know that I'm still playing and to somehow still have found success. Because my body has gotten a lot stronger in the last, I'd say 3 or 4 months, especially. Um, but like there is still pain, and I still have to stretch a ton before I work out. I stretch for 30 minutes, like before I hit a golf ball, just because I feel like I need to. So it's definitely been hard. There's been a lot of ups and downs, like with any injury, but I've been really fortunate to be surrounded by an amazing strength coach, Eric Hernandez, and he kind of had to get in my head and like really see that this injury was hard for me, but like there's a way to strengthen my body and strengthen things around my 2 labrums that maybe aren't as healthy, and kind of make my whole body work better. So he's been really, really helpful in giving me belief that my body can sustain. And I've actually seen results, especially in the last few weeks, but really in the last 3 months, for how my body has gotten stronger just with working with Eric more.
Is surgery in the future?
I don't know about surgery. I have absolute no idea, which it's kind of a blessing, because I don't have to think about surgery right now. I feel like my body is as healthy as it's been in the last 2 years.
Like you're doing all this lifting and all this stretching, it seems like it's helping without the surgery. So that
Yeah,
seems like a good thing.
yeah, it seems like it's getting better, but I guess only time will tell with that. And then it happened, like I said, I think it was February 26th when like I first felt the really bad pain, and I think it was a bulging disc in my back. Well, I actually know it was a bulging disc in my back, but I had 2 bulging discs, 4 inflamed facet joints, 2 SI joints that were inflamed, and then 2 partially torn labrums. And that happened all within a span of 2 days is when all of it happened. So there was 3 or 4 months where I went to 11 or 12 different doctors. And basically all of them told me something different. All of them said they could fix it, and nothing really changed. And eventually I got to the point where I was kind of just like broken down about how like this game that I was wrapped up in, I couldn't play anymore. And so I kind of just went back out to the golf course and started playing. And my body still hurt. There was still some pain, but it was definitely better. Like once I started stretching and getting a little bit looser, and There were like the pain never went away. The pain is still there, but I've gotten used to the pain a lot, and I feel like it's been consistent for at least the last year to where I've been feeling really good about my body going into a tournament. In most tournaments I play in, so it has been a blessing that I've been able to play. But it was definitely really hard the first 3 or 4 months I was injured.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at your results, clearly, what you've done really in the last 6 months is pretty remarkable. So I think, to kind of tie in your injury now, obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was like your senior year of high school leading into college, or you were correct. So did that play? Had you already committed and signed, sealed, delivered to UNC, or was that like something that they were waiting on for a final, maybe injury, like more or less like what it actually was?
Yeah, I committed a year and 3 months before that. So November or year and 4 months, I think. November or October 7th, 2019 is when I committed to UNC and then got injured. I talked to my coaches actually a little bit about my injury, but I was already committed and signed to play golf to UNC, so I don't really think they talked about dropping me.
That'd be I mean, listen, it'd be crazy when if you press the fast forward button to even think about that. So obviously, when it comes to committing to UNC, I know your brother plays at Georgia. I know you guys live in the state of Georgia. Was there ever a thought of you two being together and being a package in terms of like where you went, or were you just the minute you stepped on campus at UNC, it was like signed, sealed, delivered?
Yeah, I took my time. My brother and I both took our time with our decisions to where we wanted to go to college to play golf, but I committed before him and he committed like a month after me to play golf at Georgia. But I'd say our relationship wasn't as strong then as it is now. Like we were always really competitive and everyone kind of compared us in that time. Like basically our whole careers, we just compared every aspect of our life and especially our golf game. Just because I'm a lefty, he's a righty. We were pretty much the same height, same skill level our entire career at every sport. So we just got compared all the time, and eventually I think we were kind of just sick of that and wanted a little bit of a new start somewhere where we knew we could both be the best players on our teams. And I'd say now, like looking back on it, I would want him to transfer 100% right now, just because it would be amazing for for our team, and then also like being competitive with him every day would be incredible as well. But we definitely thought about going to the same school, but I think it didn't work out like that. And I think he loves Georgia and I love UNC, so it works out like that. It works out anyways, really.
Sometimes it's good to you need that you and your brother being so close, so competitive, and that's not always fair, but sometimes that's what happens where you get compared to each other. You need to get away and have that separation and become your own person a little bit. Build that foundation of who you are, who David Ford is compared to who your brother is. That's like an important thing to do, and it's nice that you recognize that either consciously or subconsciously going to different places, but then also it's nice to hear you say it's almost like you feel grounded enough to I'm my own person now.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the Jones Cup, okay? Because I can't lie, like me being a golf nerd and just like diving into this stuff and then seeing that putt that you made on the last hole, like I guess I was just like blown away with the whole thing. So before you get into like the final round and talking about battling down the stretch against Caleb Surratt, who, again, for the audience that doesn't know that, he just qualified for the Farmers Insurance Open out in Torrey Pines this past week. Why don't you give the audience a little background of what the Jones Cup is? And then I can start, firing some questions your way about that round specifically, if you don't mind.
Yeah. That's a tournament that I love to talk about, not because I won it, but because the way you're treated there as a player is so good. The food they give us is incredible. I think we're fed every single meal and the meals are really good too, from breakfast, lunch, and dinner, since we're on property all the way until we leave. And we're fed every meal, and I mean the food is just ridiculous. They have a steak and lobster night one night, and it is really good. So
for a college kid, that's like heaven.
Yeah. Sure, for
Yeah.
an adult, that's heaven. Steak and lobster is where it's at.
And they also feed the caddies too, which is really cool. So if you have a friend, you can just bring him and he gets free food as well. So I'm not saying that the reason I love the Jones Cup the most is because of the free food, but I think when a tournament does that and they show that they really care about the players and they actually want the best players there and they want to treat them the best, that really goes a long way in our heads because we're just college kids who happen to be good at golf. So the food is actually a huge component of why I like that tournament, just because it's another aspect of how they treat us there. And the people there are amazing. I love Sea Island. I love the golf course. Ocean Forest has always fit my eye really well. There's a few holes that I feel like the tee shot, just the yardage and the tee shot just fits my eye. So I love Bermuda greens. I love overseeded fairways, and yeah, everything about it. The golf course is sweet, and I don't have a bad thing to say about the people there. So it's an amazing place and big locker room for me to stretch in. So everything about it was just kind of exactly what I need in a tournament.
Yeah, and I mean the field I mean specifically speaking to this year, like the field is probably as deep as it ever is in terms of like finding not only like high ranking players but like kind of like the best of the best. I mean, when you think back to like some past champions, I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you're talking Justin Thomas, Patrick Reed, Luke List, like you're talking guys that can flat out golf. It's not just a random college kid here or there. So the field is like, from what I gathered, it was like 40 of the top 100 players and then 9 of the top 25.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Yeah,
it's a loaded field.
yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Like just thinking about the names that I beat because there's so many good players in that field, and especially this year, they moved it a month earlier than it usually is, and so there were no conflictions with college schedules this year. So a lot of guys who wouldn't normally play, like we didn't have any Tar Heels last year because we were in Hawaii we didn't have any Tar Heels at the Jones Cup. So this year we had, I think, 3 of us, and then we had a fourth that was going to play, but he decided to bail. That's kind of annoying, but um, I'll talk with him. I'll talk to him about that later. Field is really, really good every year. Davis Thompson won it in 2019, 2020. I can't remember. I think it was 2020. And then I got to play with him in 2021, and he
You're
just
right.
got
2020. He won it in 2020.
yeah, and he just got second in the PGA Tour event. So yeah, the field this year was amazing. Caleb Surratt, I think, is a guy. Caleb Surratt and Gordon Sargent are probably the two out of the top 5 guys that everybody wants to beat in college golf, just because of how good they are, not because they don't like them. They're 2 amazing dudes, but just because of how good their golf game is, and how good of competitors they are. And they were both in that field. So yeah, the field is great this year.
Yeah, I think that was the one thing I took it back when I was watching and following, just as an outsider, really not knowing any of you guys or your backgrounds. But the more I watched, I was like, dude, these guys, there's everybody there. And I know that, like in that final round specifically, like that putt, let's just, I guess you even just fast forward to that last putt because, from what I gathered, it's 18 feet downhill, where you stand and like you make it, you win. Like the research I've done, I've saw that, one of the books that you recommend to people is Bob Rotell's Putting Out of Your Mind. And I know our thoughts from what you've read in that book going through your mind, or like, what are your thoughts on a putt like that to win a tournament like that in front of all those people? Like, kind of like, let's go through that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's one of those moments where you've been battling the whole day, and I'm not going to say that it took something out of me to fight that hard, because I didn't hit it that well, but it was definitely a battle out there with Caleb. Pretty much the whole day. I gave up my lead earlier in the round, and then had to like kind of claw my way back. So I think the a lot of peace that I had over that putt was just knowing that, like, this is, no matter what happens, this is where today ends, and this is like I have a good finish no matter what happens. Like, yes, I want to win, but I can only control how I play. I can't really control if I win, and I know that I had fought really, really hard that day, even when I didn't hit it well, and it was just one putt. So I was doing a lot of praying like the whole round, and just trying to like find peace out on the golf course. And that last putt, I took a long, long time to read it. I looked at my teammate Peter, and we were playing together, and I said, like, I'm about to set the record for longest time to read a putt. I was like, all right, I'm minutes in to reading the putt, and I was like, man, like, I read it right edge the first time, and then I went back and looked at it from the other side again, and I was like, all right, this thing's probably going right. And honestly, I couldn't tell you, I switched my line in my mind, but I mean, I played it a little bit outside left, and it went left at the start, and then swung back right at the end. So I kind of just got lucky that that one happened to fall, because it was a really hard read. My one of my best friends, Michael Brennan, he had the putt right before I did. He was in two groups in front of me, or a group in front of me, and I saw him after, and I asked him where his putt was in the last, and he said it was 18 feet, like long, just right of it. And it was the same exact same putt I had. And I said, you probably missed it right, didn't you? And he said, yeah. So I think that's one of those cases where the longer I seemed to read the putt, the more it made sense, which isn't usually the case. But yeah, I'm just very fortunate that it went in. I mean, it could have gone the other way. Caleb could have made, and I could have missed. So it's just one of those things that you love the moment. You really wait for the moment, and then that moment happens, and it turned in my favor and gives me more confidence for the future.
Yeah, I mean that putt was center cut.
Yeah, it was.
For being so unsure about where that thing was going to roll. Like, after watching the replay, like, that thing was dead center. So whatever you ended up deciding on, listen, if you're going to take that long, I always say, if you're going to take that long and you make it, you can't really argue.
Yeah.
And then obviously now with that win, there are a lot of perks to that in my eyes when I read about, like, what you not more or less get, okay, but like with that win, you get into Davis Love's nonetheless Georgia, guy, North Carolina guy, into the RSM exempt. Like, how cool is that? He's got to be a guy you've always looked up to, being a Georgia guy going to North Carolina.
Yeah. I actually emailed the tournament director of RSM after I won at Seminole this past October, and was basically like, I told him I'm ranked like 7 in the world. I'm coming off a win here. I'm coming off a second and a 6th at other places, a win in the summer at the course that RSM is at. Like, I'm from Georgia. Can you let me into the tournament? And he basically said, we reserve that spot for the Jones Cup winner. So if you win the Jones Cup, then you can get in. And I happened to win the Jones Cup, which was just kind of crazy to think that, like, it came full circle, and now I'm going to get to play in the RSM in November. But I don't know. I've thought about it a little bit, but I think I've come to the conclusion that the more that me playing in a PGA Tour event slips my mind, and the less I think about it, the better it is, because I feel like I'm really, really good when I'm just playing golf. And obviously, like, when there's a big tournament, I know it's a big tournament, but when I'm just playing golf, and I show up to a tournament just wanting to play golf and have fun, that's when I play my best. And so I think the less I think about the RSM, and I love talking about it, but like, the less the better I seem to do, and the less stressed I seem to be. So ultimately, I'm just trying to have fun the next 10 months. We still have a national championship to win before then, and right now that's kind of my focus.
It's nice that they changed the Jones Cup. I would think they'd want more of the college kids there, since those are the majority of the WAGR ranking. When does the season start up for you guys?
We leave in, I think, 5 days, maybe 6. I think it might be 6 days, actually. We go to Hawaii this upcoming Saturday.
Not a bad place to start.
No.
Yeah, it's warm.
You said your brother is a right-handed golfer, and you're a left-handed golfer?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Did you guys just mirror each other growing up? You think that's how it came to be, or?
Yeah, when we were born, I think, I don't know, like, the exact biology of twins, but I know there was one egg, and then that egg split in the womb. So Maxwell and I are actually mirrored twins, and that means I'm more left hand dominant, he's more right hand dominant. So it is a little bit scientific, I guess, of how I'm a lefty and he's a righty. But yeah, we're lefty and righty in pretty much everything. I right lefty, throw lefty. So, and he's the opposite in all those things.
Okay. So you hitting from the wrong side of the ball isn't a choice. It seems scientific.
Yeah, it just happened, like, just wrong, and that's how it is.
So I also see, and obviously, the more I read and the more I learn things, is is obviously I see that faith plays a huge part in you and your game, and just listening to you talk, saying like things come full circle, or the idea of being able to pray and think about things like, you know, understanding that that plays a huge role in your life. Why don't you talk about how that like balances everything for you, like both on the golf course, off the golf course, academically, um, something along the lines of like that.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of teammates at Carolina who have basically pushed my faith, pushed me into a relationship with God and with Jesus. And that's kind of the last like 3 months really is when I've really grown in my faith. And long term, I got baptized April of this past year, so April 2022. And
Well, so
thanks.
so real quick, not to cut you off, but so this is like a more recent thing than anything. It wasn't
Yeah,
something like that has been instilled from the very early on. It's more or less something now.
correct. Yeah, it's something that kind of came about from my injury actually. Um, I was injured for 3 or 4 months, like I said, and my whole existence was kind of wrapped up in the game of golf. Like I was ranked number one in the world. I was as prideful as you can get. I still am prideful, but like everything that I did was for golf and for myself through the game of golf. And I think that when I got injured, it was like everything, nothing else mattered because I didn't have golf. So it was like, well, I have nothing to lean on right now. So that's when my faith kind of started to grow. I read my Bible more and like actually realized that my true calling in life was glorifying God through the game of golf. And then fast forward, I guess over a little under a year after I was healthy and playing golf again is when I got baptized. And that's kind of when things started to change. Like my attitude started to get better on the golf course. I just had a tournament the day before, came back from Arizona, had a tournament, and my attitude was just horrible the whole time. And then since I got baptized, it was like I gave my life to Jesus, and then slowly my heart started to change, and I started to see that like this game of golf and like this life that we live is so much less significant than we make it out to be. And on a short term note, for like something I've seen in my life that's I feel like a really good testament of God's faithfulness in my life is after the Jones Cup, I won the Jones Cup, and I'm basically driving back, and I have a 6 hour drive, a lot of time to think, and I'm basically thanking God for the blessing of winning a golf tournament, and like the blessing of being able to glorify Him through the game of golf. But in my head, I'm like, all right, this win doesn't satisfy anything. Like this win doesn't make me feel happy at all. It's only the fact that I was able to like show how God has worked in my life through this win and like shown the freedom and peace that He gives, like on the golf course and off the golf course, and to balance the highs and lows. That's like the only reason that I was satisfied after the Jones Cup. And then fast forward 2 weeks after I won the Jones Cup, so pretty recently, I was kind of sitting there, and I was like, I'd forgotten that I won the Jones Cup, and I think it's kind of funny how quickly life does that to you. Like you want to win a Jones Cup, or I wanted to win the Jones Cup. Like I practiced for the Jones Cup. You want a job promotion, you want to impress somebody, you want a girlfriend, but then like you get that thing, and it's like 2 weeks later, a day later, whatever it might be, like you're still not satisfied after that. And there's a lot of scriptures that point to that, but I think it's just funny that like I was able to win the Jones Cup and basically play amazing golf for the last 3 months, and I was sitting there saying like this game still doesn't fulfill me. I'll still have bad days. So I think it's kind of cool just to have somewhere to go back to read my Bible, to balance the highs and lows, and to really have peace every day.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting story, because you hear so many different ways that people kind of have like that outlet in terms of like who they lean on or what they lean on, whether it's a significant other or whether it's a father figure, or even religion for that matter. So it's
Mm-hmm.
always nice to hear stories from people like yourself that like they always are playing better when things are solid at home. And whatever that is for everybody, because it's different for everybody, but just to hear that, like you're able to just freely go out there, swing the golf club, and realize like, hey, listen, it's just a golf shot, and
Yeah.
it'll go where it's going to go no matter what. And I just have to deal with the results. Like that's such a good mindset to go in and attack with things, because I think it frees you up and it lets you just swing and let you just play, and you just deal with it as you come. So I guess I got I mean, listen, I can't lie. I won't take up a ton more of your time. I won't, because I literally could probably fire a gazillion questions off you as if like we're best friends and we just legitimately met in the past like 2 weeks. But like when you project out like your future, and obviously I look and kind of like stalk to some extent the Wagger, and I'm always curious to see where guys are and if they're moving up. And clearly you're right on the cusp of breaking into the top five. You're damn near close to doing that. And obviously knowing the other guys that are, in that top five, like after UNC, do you see yourself being there for all 4 years? Is that something that you see, like graduating and getting a degree is first and foremost, and then, whether it's the Corn Ferry Tour, the PGA Tour, whatever next, like then that, or do you kind of see a different path for you?
Yeah, I haven't thought about it all that much. I think one reason I haven't thought about it is a good thing. Is because I don't think I'm ready to like graduate. I don't think I'm ready to leave yet. Because I think about where I'd be like without this program, without the people around me at UNC that I have, without the school. And it's like I don't want to leave this place because I love it so much. And I love the coaches that we have here, Matt Clark and Andrew DiBattista. I love all my teammates. I love the guys we have coming in for 2023 and 2024. I love the trajectory of our program, and I love playing amateur golf right now. I feel like that's where I'm supposed to be right now. And so I don't think I can't make any promises, but I think with PGA Tour U where it is, and with everything going on in the world of golf, I think it's not only beneficial for me to stay in school because of professional golf, but also because of I love amateur golf and I love this program so much.
When like, you're obviously, we have an audience here in New Jersey that, it ranges in terms of like high school golfers to kids that are in college that are all over the place to like some pretty good amateurs or just regular guys. And I think one of the questions that we get from a lot of the audience that DMs us is like, well, what do they do to get ready? Like everybody seems to have like a different approach where it's like, all right, I'm grinding for the next 3-4 days and my head's down. I'm just getting after it. But like leading into, let's just say, a big time tournament, like what are some things that you do that gets you ready? That someone in the audience, good, bad, middle handicapper, can say like, all right, listen, that's actually a good suggestion that I may want to take that up.
Yeah, I honestly think I'm still figuring it out. I feel like I've had my fair share of rough tournaments in the last 7 months. Western Am didn't play well. USAM didn't play well. Olympia Fields didn't play well. So I played well in every event other than those, but it felt like those events, I didn't really do anything differently. So I think I'm still figuring out like what makes me like in tournaments on the golf course, but especially with regards to preparation. But I think one thing that came to mind when you were talking about that is there have been so many times where I show up to tournaments and kind of have no idea what I'm doing and I end up winning. And I think it's just
That's a great problem to have.
Yeah, it is.
But and then vice versa, I showed up to Olympia Fields, and I remember how good I was hitting it. I'd come off a second place, just lost in a playoff at Notre Dame, and I felt like I was really confident. I love the golf course at Olympia Fields, and I get there and I can't hit the ball. I get 50th, and it's like I didn't do anything different preparation wise at that tournament as I did at any other one. But I think one thing that came to mind when you were talking about that is it's not so much for me the preparation that I do, because I feel like I've been blessed to have a good golf swing that I can believe in, and a lot of support around me that believes in me. So it's not so much as like if I have put in the work before, because I feel like I always work consistently. I don't really amp up my work ethic, but it's more so when I get to the tournament, can I know that like I'm prepared no matter what, like no matter how I'm hitting it. And it's not so much a physical thing as it is a mental thing. Just know that kind of know that I'm good enough to compete at that level. And I feel like every tournament I've been at, one thing that always sticks out to me is when I win is in the practice rounds, I like hitting bad shots because the guys I'm playing with can look at it and say like, I have this confidence where like if I later in the week, if I end up winning and I hit a bad shot in a practice round, that gives the guy in the practice round that I play with like a lot of hope to see the shots that I was hitting in the practice round and then to go on and win. It happened at Southern Am. I hit some pretty bad shots at Southern Am. And then it also happened especially at Ocean Forest. I probably missed my first 10 fairways in the practice round at Ocean Forest. I was hitting bombs, but they were just going like quack hooks. So it was like there's where I can look back and say like, man, it literally does not matter how I hit it in the practice round. And I think that gives me a lot of confidence going forward that my preparation isn't so much important to me as it is like believing that I'm good enough to play that specific week.
Yeah, you like to set them up for failure. You like to, tease them a little bit like, hey, listen, I'm struggling right now. My game's all over the place. And then 320 down the middle, tapping birdies, like, have a great day.
I like the mind games. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mind game. Like, yeah, you saw how bad I was struggling, but now all of a sudden, all I got to do is flick that light switch, and here comes 65.
Yeah.
Dave, obviously you could probably tell Mike's the more competitive golfer. I'm the more laid back and I'll joke around with you about golfing from the wrong side and that kind of thing. Is there anything that you do pre-round that might be more of a quirk or a superstition that you have that like I think golfers are a little superstitious by nature. Is there something that you do or something that is again maybe a little more superstitious or quirky or someone said like a personal habit that you have there that
Yeah, I don't think I have too many. I think one thing that I do find myself doing a lot is whenever those, I feel like superstition is something that, like, yes, it can be helpful for some people, but more than anything, it's just something for your mind to cling to, like when you want something to believe in before a round. And so I don't think there's anything bad about it. Like people who are superstitious, that gives them something to cling to in their own head. But for me, whenever I have a thought of like, all right, I did this yesterday, I want to do this exactly the same today because I did that yesterday. I feel like I've been pretty good, especially at Jones Cup, of like kind of not giving into those superstitions and like saying, all right, that doesn't matter at all. Like I'm good enough to not like I don't need that to win. And I think that just sets my mind on winning too. So I think it's kind of the opposite of like I'm not superstitious at all, but I'll sometimes I'll take those thoughts and try to spin them into something positive to where I don't really have to think about the superstition anymore and kind of just rely on like nothing outside is going to change what I can do within myself.
I absolutely love that. The spinning it to a positive is awesome that you're like, yeah, I'm going to take those negative thoughts, those quote unquote superstitious thoughts. I'm going to spin them into a positive. And that's a winner's attitude right there.
It's a very mature way to look at it because
yeah,
it's not superstitions. It's more like habits because superstitions can have that negative connotation like, oh, you got to do this because you had that meal, but you make it a habit. And now that negative aspect it has to it is like completely gone. So listen, that's a mature way of looking at it. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Dave, I can't thank you enough because I know when I, DM'd you, you're probably like, who the hell is this clown DMing me and what's he about? But I think one of the things that Ryan and I like to say is like, once we're able to like talk to people and let them know who we are and what we're about, like, we're just two guys that really just want to talk shop and talk golf. So I can't thank you enough, for spending, 45 minutes or so with us, just kind of talking and listen, best of luck out there in Hawaii. I'll be following from afar and I'll be, rooting you on as one of your biggest cheerleaders.
Same thing, Dave. Thank you so much for coming on. Good luck, not just in Hawaii, the whole golf season.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys reaching out. I love doing interviews, and it helps me think through things on the golf course. So I appreciate you guys reaching out, and I'm always happy to do it. Like if you want to have me on again or just chat, then I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah, I don't think this is your last time on here.
One of many. You keep winning, we'll keep calling.
Exactly.
You keep losing, we'll still keep calling.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, now you're stuck with us. But listen, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Best of luck this season, and we'll be